What is happening, people? Welcome to my F1 channel. Welcome to Peter on Pole. My name is Peter. In pole position, McLaren, the first team to launch their car. Let's talk about it. Now, visually, I know what everybody's been saying. Twitter went mental yesterday, by the way, in terms of this launch. Everybody seemed to be a bit mad and upset that there wasn't really much difference in the car. And yes, that might be true, but let's remember, McLaren, if any other team on the paddock, they've got the biggest job this winter. They've had to put in a brand new engine. Obviously, the Mercedes engine is now in there. And I have to say, look, last season's car was nice. It looked good. It looked great. And it performed well. This season's car, I have to say the exact same. It looks really good. And there are some small, slight changes, but it can make a huge difference. Who knows? We can start off with the floor. It's a lot more narrower. It's a lot more thinner, as you can see in comparison to last year's model, which is basically, obviously the reasoning for that is so that they can have better aerodynamics, right? Because that's what the car is going to be potentially judged on the most. Yes, the engine is going to be one thing, but everything else besides the engine, we know the Mercedes engine is pretty good. We saw it with the Racing Points last year. We've seen it with, obviously, Mercedes themselves last year. Not so great with the Williams, but I think they had more issues than what people could probably even imagine. This car, however, I must admit, it does look like, it looks a lot tighter, even when you get towards the back, the back area there. It looks a lot more neater, it looks a lot more tighter, which I do like, by the way. The more narrow, obviously, the more sort of advantage you can have on the aerodynamic side of things. They went with the same color. They've gone with the matte papaya and blue, which I don't think is that bad either. You know, I know people like to have the chrome. I've seen people wanting to have the chrome. I like a mixture on the grid of chrome cars as well as matte cars. So that doesn't faze me too tough. I don't mind that at all. The other thing I like as well is the nose. You've got not a brand new nose, but the blue nose this time as opposed to the black from last year. And the nose is a different shape as well in comparison to last year. Last year, you sort of had like the two nostrils, if you will. And then this year, it looks like they've gone for a more singular sort of round end. Kind of look like the Mercedes, if you will, or the Racing Points of last year, which I do like. And it's interesting the way they've named the two cars from last year to this year. Last year's car was the MCL35. So when I saw the MCL35M, I thought, oh, okay, this just looks like a 2.0. So maybe we shouldn't have necessarily expected that much difference in terms of the look of the car. The front wing as well, it looks like there's a bit more space, more gaps in between each layer of the wing in comparison to last year's car, which is interesting. Again, I think the car was more based on the aero side. Maybe that's something that there's something that they wanted to work on last year, and whether or not they felt like, you know what, we would prefer to have a bit more performance coming out of that side, because maybe the technical side of the car, maybe like, you know, the engine situation, they've cleared that up. And why I said, remember, McLaren had the biggest sort of operation, if you will, of the winter, is because they've had to take out the Renault engine and put in a Mercedes engine. And it's not as simple, obviously, as just swapping engines around, but at the same time, it's making sure that that engine is fitting well, it's snug enough, it doesn't affect any other aspects of the car. So there's a lot of work to be done. So it's no surprise, really, that they were the first team to actually come out and do their car launch. Of course, they got a new driver lineup with Daniel Ricciardo in the fold. So this will be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how the first impressions of the car once it's out on track. As I said, look, if you look up from the above picture as well, in comparison to the two models, the floor is a lot thinner. In terms of, it's a lot more narrower by the time it gets to the rear tires. And also the body of the car on the papaya as well, that's a lot more narrower than last year's model as well. So, and you know, who knows if this was probably the reason why they went with the Mercedes engine, is because they've got access to actually do something as snug as that. It makes last year's car look really big and makes it look a lot more fatter. And I wonder how they managed to get such great performance out of last year's car, which is quite surprising. But it looks neater, it looks more narrow. I'm wondering if they could have squeezed more out of that floor, but whether there's regulations involved is another matter. The only thing that actually did surprise me, and I'm hoping it's coming later, is where's Mercedes-Benz on the model? We didn't get to see no Mercedes-Benz. That's what I'm waiting for. I want to see Mercedes-Benz all over that papaya. If you see on the side view there, where on the old model you had a Better Tomorrow logo, which is now also on the blue plate as well, but underneath. But, you know, there's a big gap there right next to Lando Norris's number 4. There's a huge gap right there to put the Mercedes-Benz logo, which I think they might do. You know, we're seeing this car now, and you know, we never know what's going to turn up in Bahrain. I almost said Australia. In Bahrain, it could be a completely different, you know, there might be a few things added onto there, more sponsors on there as well. By the way, McLaren have tons of sponsors. Like, I know obviously most of the cars are all just tattooed in some sort of branding, but it actually astonishes me how many they've got, and I wonder if they've got the most. I'll probably do a video on who's got the most sponsors. But yeah, it was actually quite interesting to see. There's a bit of less black towards the back end of the car. Obviously the wing is black, but the as you can see, the Estrella logo as well is gone. Obviously Carlos Sainz took that and left. But you know, if you look at where the blue on near the floor of the car is, where the blue sort of body is, a better tomorrow. You've got the rainbow colors going in a different angle, and then there's less black in there. So that's an interesting look on the car. The launch itself was actually pretty all right. I mean, it started, obviously it started slow. I mean, it was like a 40-minute live video of the launch. And obviously I just want to see the car, set the reminder on 7 p.m. GMT, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, you know, obviously we had to go through the long spiel, introducing Daniel Ricciardo and of course Lando Norris, messages from people back home, and it was like, come on, let's get on with it. And then they showed us the whole drum kit situation and music thing. And I was just like, all right, let's tick it along. But at the same time, you know what? I got to give props to McLaren, because in the beginning, I was a bit like, you know what, man, they've done pretty good here. They've done really, really well. They've really tried to sort of make this like a movie in a sense. You know, it was really good for TV, if that makes sense. And they did the best out of a bad situation in terms of not having anybody there. Great, massive wall that they had full of fans there as well, which was superb for the fans to be involved in. A good sea of orange, papaya coloured hats and tops and things like that. But look, it made me look forward to the season ahead as a McLaren fan. It was interesting. Lando Norris came out today with his with the car, and they were sort of testing the car at Silverstone, wet, of course. And the engine sounded really rough. It didn't sound too good. Now, whether or not Lando was just playing around, you can't tell what they're doing. He'd just come out of the pit area, and was onto the pit lane, leaving the exit, and it sounded really, really weird. But I guess it's just a case of he's testing out a few things, he's messing it up a little bit, and then let's see what happens, man. I'm excited. I'm hoping Danny and Lando Norris can have a great season. I'd love to have third place again this year. And just improve that car, develop that car. Hopefully a McLaren win. Let's get some podiums in there this season. But yeah, let me know your thoughts below. Let me know what you thought about that car launch. There'll be plenty more launches to come as well, and we'll keep it covered right here on Peter on Pole. So make sure you like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. With that said, peeps, lights out.